Hi guys, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial, or should I say fly tying series, because what I'm going to do over the coming weeks is explore the world of the buzzer, or the Chironomids. I hope I've pronounced that right for my friends across the pond. So I'm going to start with flies that I would fish very deep down and slowly work my way up through the water column. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook you see in the vise then is a Hanak H310 barbless hook. This one's at size 8, it's on a very heavy wire gauge, and it's finished in black nickel. Now the thread I'm going to be using today is from UTC. It's black and it's at 140 denier. Now I do like the UTC for most of my buzzers. It's just a nice thick thread that helps build the body very quickly. So I'm not going to add any super glue or wax to this thread because, as you've seen from the introduction, it's going to be coated in various glues and resins when it's finished. So I'll just get a little start to my thread, get the thread on the shank of the hook, and I'm going to remove my rat's tail. Now, for the rib of this fly, I'm going to be using some of this stuff. Now, it's Flexi floss. This one's from Simplify, and as you can see, it's green. Now, I have got a little bit cut off here that I want to catch in just at the head, the thorax area of the fly, should I say. So, as I said in the introduction, there's going to be a sort of series of videos about buzzers and how I like to fish them. So I've well caught that in, and what I want to do now is stretch out the Flexi floss, keeping it nice and thin. Now I'm going to try and take a little bit of care here so that I'm keeping my body nice and thin on the way down with my thread. Nice touch and turns. Really got that Flexi floss stretched out. And just bear with me, and I want to come all the way right down the shank of the hook. Now with the UTC, if I set my bobbin setting off anti-clockwise, what this does will flatten the thread out, and I want it nice and flat for coming back up the body of the fly. Again, this is to keep a nice slim profile to this fly. Now the hook that I've chosen, the 310, is probably one of the thicker gauged fly fishing hooks that you'll see. It's very thick, it's very heavy, and that's going to help me get this fly down to where I want it, which is pretty much on the deck. So as I come up towards the thorax area here, I'm going to get several extra turns in at the front of the fly, and then I'm going to take the Flexi floss in my hand, and initially I'm going to stretch it out nice and tight for the first couple of turns. And what I want to do as I come up the hook, and I'm just going to take my time, I want to try and keep my spacings nice and even. There'll not be much black showing through here. It is an olive buzzer after all, and we want to try and keep that olive shape. Now, as I get up and I've started to get started, I'm now easing off the tension on my Flexi floss. And what that does, it will give me the nice tapered profile that I'm after. Now it takes a little bit of practice, this. It can be quite tricky initially, but once you've done 2 or 3, you'll soon get into the swing of it. So how would I fish this fly then? I would often fish a fly like this, especially on a curved hook, underneath a bung or an indicator. And this would be my sort of anchor, if you like, to get my flies down quickly. The other way, of course, is through straight lining. A team of buzzers, maybe 3 or 4, on a 22-foot cast, and I would have this fly on the point, again just to get that team of flies down to the taking depth. Now I've just closed over the thorax with a few thread wraps, and I'm going to remove my Flexi floss. Now the next thing then is the cheeks, and what I'm using for the cheeks, you can use a number of different things. I've often used goose bites in the past, but I've got these, they're called Cheeky Flow Yellow, and they come from a shop in the northeast called the Fly Tying Den. And pretty much what it is a pre-cut vinyl cheek. And I'm just going to catch it in on my side. So I'm going to put the bright yellow down first. And then, as you can see, I've got another length here. So I'm going to trim it at the back of the fly. So I've got enough to work with to bring that forward. And then I'm going to catch in on your side. Now, excuse my fingers for the moment. You can see it now. And I'm just going to get that caught in there. Now, I'll just check it's sitting the way I want it on your side. Just needs a little bit of adjustment there, not much. And then what I can do is concentrate on building my thorax. Now with this heavy hook and the layers of glue and resin I'm going to put on it, it's going to make it extremely heavy. Now I'm going to mention at this point, because I know a few guys that like to do the competition fishing, the size 8 hook will not fit in the competition gauge. So if you're tying up with competition in mind, make sure you use the size 10, which fits comfortably within the gauge. You don't want to be caught out with an illegal hook on your cast. So I've built my thorax area there, and the first thing I'm going to do is bring my side round first. I've given myself a little challenge by not giving much excess material to play with. So I've wrapped that with a couple of wraps. I'm going to bring it round on your side, which is I've been much more generous with, and I'll get a couple of wraps down on that. Now once I've got the wraps, keeping tension on the tying thread, I'm going to just remove the cheeks, and then another couple of wraps just to cover the raggedy ends. Then I can come in with my whip finish tool and catch that in like so. Now if you've watched some of my recent videos about how to get the perfect finish on buzzer, you can probably tune out of the video at this point. So I'm going to finish it off. I've got some super glue here, and what I want to do is just coat this in super glue. I will leave a little link up in the top right hand corner on how I get the finishes on my buzzers, if you want to check that out after you've finished watching this video. So this would be probably one of the heaviest flies I would tie in regards to buzzer. Now that I've done that, I will come in with a bit of foam like so and just take that away. And in true Blue Peter fashion, I can come in with one I tied earlier. As you can see, the super glue is dried on this. It's not tied on, it's dried onto the buzzer. Now what super glue does is it seals the thread, the rib, everything, so it's nice and sealed in. And what I want to do to finish is 2 layers of Solaris bone dry. Now I like the Solaris for a number of reasons. One of the most important ones is that it does what it says on the tin. When you cure it, it does go bone dry, whereas a lot of the resins you end up with a milky sheen to your flies, and I've been through several in the past and not really got the finish I wanted. So what I do with this is just give it a nice coat all the way around. Like so. Make sure that the eye's clear. If it isn't, I would use a little bit of wire or a feather to get rid of that gunk. I'll just let the UV light do its business. So as I said, we could fish this on the bung or an indicator, straight lining. Another way of using it is I often use it to fish something called the Method. Now, you might not have heard of this. It is a competition technique, and basically it's an advanced washing line setup, and maybe I should do a video on that down the line, but it can be very effective, especially at this time of year. Now, I'm not going to bore you with me putting another coat of resin on, but there we go, and that's the first pattern in this series of videos. I hope you enjoyed it, and next week we'll be tying something that will fish just that little bit higher in the water.